No, you will not hear a new theme for Batman. You'll hear Batman's theme for Batman. Uh,
The Hans Zimmer had score for the last film? Or
no, you'll hear Batman's theme. Batman has only had one theme. Batman has only had one theme.
Batman has only had one theme.
Your theme.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny boy. Can I call you Danny boy, Danny boy? Look, listen, I agree with you. Batman has only ever had one theme. And contemporary composers really shouldn't go monkeying with the classics. Which is why I had my interns here at Ramblebable Productions like, share, subscribe, and hit the ring-a-ding thing, fix the opening to the 1989 Batman movie. Batman, 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 na 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 Batman! Okay, no, but seriously, we actually did fix it with a version of the classic 60s theme, but YouTube's content ID system is unbelievably cruel, even though I feel this should kind of be covered under parody. So, you'll just have to kind of imagine what that would have been like. Bear with me, I promise I will not sing anymore in this one. You get the joke. I'm not the first person to have told this joke. My freaky darlings, may I be totally transparent with you? When I said I agreed with Danny Boy's axiom that we should not change the classic themes, that Batman only has one theme, I might have said that with just a bit of sarcasm. And indeed, I might have said that with just a hint of contempt. Now, am I saying that we should rake Danny Boy over the coals for this comment, that we should throw his many great contributions to film and music on the ash heap of culture? No. But you have to understand. Please understand. This idea is mind-bogglingly bad. Look, I love Danny Elfman's work. Growing up, he was one of the major composers to the media I loved. I mean, this is freaking Danny Elfman we're talking about here. His score to Batman Returns is a masterwork. It's the sound of a demented, tragically whimsical fairy tale. And then there's Oingo Boingo. I love Oingo Boingo. Have you heard Oingo Boingo? Yeah. Danny Elfman has a band. Never mind. Look, the point is, if you've never bopped along to No One Lives Forever, well, can you really say that you've lived at all? So all this is to say, I have a gratuitous amount of love and respect for Danny Elfman and his work, which is why I'm not here to tell you anyone's score, including the magnificent, epic 7-hour score of Justice League composed by Tom Holkenborg, aka Junkie XL, is superior to Danny's. Except, IMO, it actually kind of is. But the reason it is a little more nuanced than the simple statement, Tom Holkenborg's, aka Junkie XL's, magnificent 7-hour epic score is superior to Danny Elfman's. Please, allow me to explain. Okay, it really must be said, and I'm gonna say it. Hans Zimmer's and Junkie XL's score to BVS is just kinda terrible. Wonderfully amazing. It rocks, it bangs, OMG. Even if you hate everything, and I mean everything about that film, that score, did you listen to that score? It's phenomenal. Even though Hans Zimmer was leading, it sounds nothing like the Dark Knight trilogy. Even as I grew increasingly suspicious of what was going on behind the scenes when the other director took over Zack Snyder's film, I was still excited for JL-17 because it was being composed by Junkie XL. I was fiending for his work, my freaky darlings, positively salivating. And then I went to see the film. And when I heard the Elfman Bat theme in the film, I was like, oh, cool, he's reusing some of Elfman's score. Not exactly what I wanted, but cool. That's cool, I guess. That's cool. Except, I won't lie to you. Even when I heard the film, I was kind of disappointed because it didn't sound right. I heard Batman and Superman's themes, but they weren't the right ones. Somehow, they didn't seem to belong. I was interested in Snyder's version of the film, sure, but if they'd released a script, that would have slaked my curiosity. Junkie XL's score, on the other hand, I'd go online and look for news of it possibly being finished and released, and I did so fairly consistently. Looking for such news led me to the clip.
Batman has only had one theme.
I do not hold anything against Danny Elfman for taking Junkie XL's place. I don't think the switch should have happened. But that's not Danny's fault. What's more important is why the switch shouldn't have happened. And the reason is... how do I put this delicately? The reason is, the score that Junkie XL was working on, at the time, when he was switched out for Elfman, was better than anything Elfman could have come up with. Children, chill. Better than anything Elfman could have come up with, given the circumstances. It's not because one is a better composer on a technical level than the other. Before being Frankenstein, the film that was planned and made, the very idea of the sound, was the sound of JXL. The work of Hans Zimmer and JXL had already codified what the world of these characters sound like, had given it soul. Watching JL-17, I could feel that something had gone very wrong. I could feel that this was not what was intended, and as a result, it felt false. For the Batman featured in BVS and JL, the music of Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL, that's his music, and they are his composers. They are not the composers of the Tim Burton Batman. That would be Danny Elfman. As amusing as hearing those old scores there was, they don't belong to those characters. That's not what they or their world is supposed to sound like. Here's an idea. It might be amusing or interesting to see Adam West's Batman trying to operate inside the world Chris Nolan constructed. But it would feel false. Unless, possibly in the case where that's what was intended by the creatives that built most of the work. In which case, it would feel like farce. Farce or false. Take your pick. This film did not intend to nostalgically use Danny Elfman's Batman theme. And it felt cheap. I don't like using that word because, well, I am cheap. But that's how it felt, and I can't deny that. Now, Danny is talented, and I know if given proper time, he is capable of scoring something new and suitable to this Batman. But he didn't. Therefore, HZ and JXL's Batman music is superior to Elfman's because it was made for and in the spirit of this Batman and this story. Let's talk about what happened and why it happened. Through quotes. God, I love quotes. The way that Zack had to leave the project, and me along with it, was an emotional and unpleasant time. That's one of the reasons why there's nothing I've worked on the first time around in the new film. When I heard the project was back on, I delved back into the work. I did. And it brought me back to that vibe. This film should be a celebration, not something being dragged down by negative emotions that I felt 4 years ago. My film scoring career is still relatively young. It's just 7 years. I've learned so much these last 4 years. I wanted this movie to benefit from what I am as a composer now, and not then. These quotes I'm sharing, they tell a story all on their own, and I'm not going to add much to it. But I am going to say how fitting I find it that... Look, can we agree that neither Justice League that came out was truly Snyder's original vision? Certainly the second one is authentic, because it's inarguably his. But for whatever reason it was done, I think it's great and appropriate and perfect that JXL went ahead and did an entirely new composition for the new version of the film. His music it's awe-inspiring, and the choice, for whatever reason it was made, to make something new for this version of the film, that's awe-inspiring to me too. It shows such love and care for the work. Now, shall we have a little more Elfman?
The whole concept that every time a superhero franchise is rebooted with a new director, then you have to start the music from scratch is a bullshit idea. It's only for the ego of the director and the composer. They need to learn the incredible lesson that Star Wars and James Bond have known for ages, which is that keeping these musical connections alive is incredibly satisfying for the people seeing those films.
Dan, that was a little crude. I did not put that in there. That was one of my interns, and I'm going to punish them for it, I promise you. To be brief, which is unusual for me, the reason that Elfman stated the classic themes ended up in the film was because the second director told him to do so. I think he should have pushed back against that, but they were short on time, so maybe a little less work was better. But here's the thing, see? I got my Justice League score composed by Junkie XL, but if I'd never heard a single note of JXL's JL, Danny's still not to blame for that. So in truth, I have no reason to fault Danny Elfman for his score. His score is fine, his score is good. Better than I can do. I am not musically inclined. No, my problem is with what he said. So, Danny boy, let's talk about Star Wars. Let's talk about James Bond. Unlike Batman, Star Wars has never had any sort of hard reboot. Therefore, the music creates a continuity of feeling between longer chapters of a singular story composed of, depending on who you ask, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 11, 12, or 13 films. Also, all chapters are composed in part, if not in toto, by Music Meister John Williams. James Bond, on the other hand, has had one hard reboot. And they did maintain a version of the original theme music, except for when he had a new theme for the first 99.9% of Casino Royale. The original theme doesn't come in until the very end. For most of the film's runtime, his theme is a riff of Chris Cornell's You Know My Name, and if you haven't heard it, you gotta. The creatives intentionally did this for reasons serving the text of the film. And then they brought back the classic theme going forward. Let me use the word again. As a work, it was intended to be this way, designed to be this way. Now, here's a dicey subject. Playing devil's advocate here, Dan. Maybe they should have kept the riff of You Know My Name as Bond's theme for all 5 films instead of bringing back the old one. The changeover served a purpose within the text, sure, but just as a modest proposal, maybe after 20-plus films made over nearly 7 decades, using the same theme over and over and over because it's safe and what people know isn't so great? That's not to say I don't love it. It's a jam, a banger, it's f***ing busy, but maybe the music for a character that's changed over the years. Maybe the music should reflect that in some way. Or at the very least, maybe composers shouldn't be creatively strapped down to something. I'm running dangerously close here to sounding like I'm saying,
let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
but that's not what I'm saying. Because I'm not totally against bringing back the old themes. The Disney run of Spider-Man utilizes a new version of the 60s theme. That was great. It was fun. It was intended. But you know, Dan, when I was a little chit, and I first saw the Raimi movies, you know what I thought? I thought Spider-Man only has one theme. And it's not yours. Your stuff isn't Spider-Man at all. It doesn't have the same cheery bop. Why is it so melancholic? Now that I mention it, why does your Batman theme sound like the charge of a haunted warrior? Where's the zany 60s sound, Danny? why'd you change those and bring your own imagination and influences into a work to create something suitable to this new version of a story? Furthermore, Dan, why is it your theme that is Batman's one true holy theme? Why not something by Shirley Walker, who went from working for you to scoring Batman the Animated Series, the version of Batman widely regarded as the most accurate version of the character, something I don't really think is a thing, for reasons I will come to, but Miss Walker certainly scored more Batman than you ever did. Far as I know, she scored more Batman than anyone has. So, if you wanted to play the one true game, then you can claim your theme is Batman's one true theme, and I'll say it's more than fair. Call Miss Walker Batman's one true composer. But Dan, I don't think one true things are things. I don't think that. But you know, Miss Walker even had her own Batman theme for Batman the Animated Series until you... I'm sorry, Danny. Forgive me? My neurochemicals are a little out of whack. You're not to blame for my frustration. Your sentiment is endemic of a problem I see everywhere in our media and culture. There are several problems with reboot culture in general, but among them is that it's squeezed out room for other kinds of things. Choking the creativity out of the film industry like weeds from a flower. But that doesn't mean that reboots, new versions of old stories, are bad. I love them. What is bad is not allowing things to change. Maybe you're right. Maybe Batman has only ever had one theme. And maybe he's also only ever had one suit, one director, one actor, one movie. Maybe we shouldn't have any new Batman stories and films. Maybe we should just keep screening the 1989 Batman movie over and over and over. And sure, there are people out there that agree with this sentiment, but to me, that's, to be frank, but call me Bambi, it's totes bazoomni. At best, Danny, and at worst, look, we have your theme. We have those movies. They're not going anywhere. People are still watching them. They precede my existence, and I still watch them. And people may still be watching them after our society's inevitable collapse into a new dark age. You can even say one theme is better than the other if you have to. That's a matter of personal taste. I'm not going to sit here and list Batman themes in order of preference. But I'll say it. I've listened to your stuff way more than I did the 60s stuff because it suits me more. What's the point? What's the point of these characters who we call mythology, which is something that is allowed to have a million contradictory versions over thousands of years?
I think you and I are destined to do this forever.
What's the point in them becoming unchanging monoliths? You don't get Camelot, Excalibur, Mordred, Merlin, and the King in King Arthur if stories aren't allowed to change. Why would you, and I mean, not you, Danny, you, the audience, the consumer, want less of things when you can have more things? Isn't allowing newer versions, new variations of stories featuring new ideas, new concepts, new music, a way of actually keeping these things alive by letting them grow and evolve. Which, in stories, doesn't necessarily mean the old things go extinct. Doesn't that make our art, our culture, our myths, our stories richer and more powerful? This obsession with conceptual purity. It's so backwards, it only leads to one place, and that's creative sterility. Danny, Batman has been alive longer than you. He is older than your score. He likely may still be alive with new themes after you and I are rotting in our graves. You have played a magnificent, magnificent part in his legacy. You have added to what Batman and his world and his story sound like. That's no small thing. And we thank you. But you are no curator of that legacy or mythology in any way or in any aspect. Batman, like all mythological figures, stories that are retold in new forms, is more than a single creator, or creative endeavor, or creative aspect. Your work is Batman, Danny. But it's not more Batman than anybody else's. And I hope anyone who watches this gets what I mean. Including you, Dan. Because you're actually watching this, right? In my dreams. Whoever is out there, I can see you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got an opinion, leave a comment below. We can chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, the sun's up and it's my bedtime. Thank you for watching, and I hope to be seeing you all again very, very soon. Until then, my freaky darlings. Eins, zwei, drei, and goodbye.